Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC Sao Paulo Almeida versus Lewis. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is a Stats and Stacks podcast. Can't do a review of last week because there wasn't a card last week. So we are fired up, ready to go. I'm able to do extra research with an extra week here, and then a whole bunch of fights got canceled or a lot of replacements came in. It was a little bit of a mess. It was going to be a really, really, really good card, definitely a good free card. Unfortunately, some of the fights that I could be fight of the night fell through. I mean, look at all of the red here. I thought Alexander and David Onama was a great fight. I thought Elvis Brenner and Esteban Ribovic was going to be like the fight of the night. Danny Santos and Daniel Marcos was a banger. The main event, Curtis Blades versus Jailton Almeida, I thought was going to answer a lot more questions than the current main event. So it's a bummer that a lot of them fell off, but they still do have a decent offering and it's free. So we all need to just shut the fuck up and enjoy the show because it is still going to be a show. So a lot of good fights. And if you can't tell, I am hype for this card. Don't give me a week off. I don't know what to do with myself. It's a weird time out there, but fights are back. I feel right, and I'm ready to get this thing started. So let's just jump on the very first fight of the night. We have Caio Fernandez at plus 110 going up against D1 Mark Diakese minus 130. Over under sitting at a smooth 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 166. Under 2.5 plus 130. Let's start with Caio because, again, a lot of these fighters, but there's going to be at least one Brazilian on every single fight here. Some instances there are two. So Brazil is one of the most diehard fan bases or countries in general. They even have their chant where they say you're gonna die. Like it's very, very intense over in Brazil. And this is gonna be a Brazilian versus Britain matchup. So he is gonna have the crowd behind him, especially first fight of the night. But that's about all he has behind him, to be honest with you. He has a good fight camp behind him at Nova União. I think that's a really good camp. He's 8-1, but he's literally fought nobody. He has some wins in the LFA, which I think is a really good regional scene. I will give him that. And I did see things where he looks okay. He's just really athletic and doesn't really know how to control his cardio. He does have a propensity to slow down in his fights. It's going to be his UFC debut, and he is going to be juiced to the fucking tits. Just being the first fight of the night and having an entire nation behind you. And I'm scared in his UFC debut that could be a little bit of an adrenaline dump. Also, his striking seems okay. But he leaves his chin way up in the air. He is just begging for someone to crack him, and it's going to happen soon, especially in the UFC. This takedown defense also did not look great on the regional scene, so I can only imagine what an accomplished wrestler is going to do to him inside of the octagon. And that's defensive wrestling. Offensive wrestling, it didn't look good at all. He doesn't really like to use it, and when he does, it doesn't look like he knows what he's doing. So he's predominantly a striker. He has pretty good jiu-jitsu. He is Brazilian. He is from a good camp. So he's a good striker, good jiu-jitsu, terrible wrestling, but his cardio is a little questionable. It's his debut. If he fights a competent fighter, he's in trouble. That's kind of what he has here in D1 Diakese. Diakese is a little bit of a head case, I'll be honest with you. When D1 is on point, he absolutely kills Fernandez, but he's really, really, really like just a psychological fighter. He has his days where he goes out there and he's just not with it and he looks absolutely terrible. And he has other days where he goes out there and he is focused and ready and he looks like a top 15 guy. So you never know what version of D1 you're going to get. His striking's good. He's predominantly a striker. That is his bread and butter. But his last few fights, he turned into a wrestler. Basically, his UFC career was on the line. He realized he's bigger, stronger, more athletic than all these guys, and he can take them down. And then his offensive wrestling was sneaky good this whole time. It's like he just discovered this new trick, and boy, oh boy, has he been using it. We first saw it in the Slava Claus fight. I was there live for that fight. He got like 10 takedowns. So Damir Hazovic, terrible takedown defense. So he's like, I'm going to try it again. Sure enough, went out there and the shit worked. So then he fancied himself a wrestler and he tried to wrestle Michael Johnson. Now, MJ has wrestled collegiately. Michael knows how to wrestle. So that game plan didn't work. So then he took an L and he was very confused. He thought he was a wrestler now. What am I going to do? Do I go back to striking? Do I go back to wrestling? What do I do? He gets Joel Alvarez. Joel Alvarez is very good. But he's a striker and he's really, really, really dangerous on the ground. So do you want to strike with this guy, or do you want to take him down and kind of just try to stay controlled and play in his wheelhouse? He chose to do both and mix it up, and he looked good, to be honest with you. And then they had that accidental clash of heads. He told the referee, "Hey, we hit heads. Can we stop?" And Joel Alvarez clocked him. The ref said no. Joel clocked him while he couldn't see, and then he snuck on that Darce choke real fast. So there was a lot of controversy there. I don't really count that as a loss. He did get headbutted. He told the ref he got headbutted. The ref said, nah, I didn't, tough shit. I didn't see it. And then Joel took advantage while he's talking to the ref. So it was very, very, very controversial. I'm not going to count that. So at the end of the day, Fernandez, what does he struggle with? Takedown defense and cardio. D1, really good cardio. His striking, better than Fernandez. His wrestling, again, he's been leaning on it his last few fights, better than Hernandez. Scheduled competition, better than Fernandez. Jiu-jitsu, not better. I will give the Fernandez the advantage there. But again, he was on top of Joel Alvarez for a while and was able to stay safe. If he can stay safe with Joel Alvarez, he can stay safe with anybody, to be honest with you. So I'm not really scared of him taking Fernandez down if he chooses to. If he decides to stay on the feet, I think he has a better cardio and the better striking, so I think he's better there. And D1 is just the better fighter everywhere. You don't think too much into it. I know the crowd is going to be behind the other guy, but D1 is going to make it blatantly obvious that he won this fight. So the pick is going to be Diakese. The bet is going to be Diakese. Next fight of the night, we will give Brazil a win here. We have Eduarda Mora at minus 440 going up against Montserrat Conjejo Ruiz at plus 340. Over under sitting in a 2.5, over 2.5 plus 124, under 2.5 minus 160 in a women's MMA fight. You heard that correctly. Why is that? Mainly because of Mora. Mora is training partner of the headliner, Jailton Almeida. She trains at the same camp. Her nickname is Rhonda, which sucks because every single girl's nickname is Rhonda now. At the end of the day, she came from a fighting family. She has been bred to fight. She's 9-0. She's making her UFC debut, but she was on the Contender Series, went out there, starched the girl in the first round. Her jiu-jitsu's top notch. It's very, very, very good. Her wrestling's good. She's very athletic. She is a big girl for the weight class. My concern is that with her being so big, you would like to see her have a little bit better like throws and trips and such. She predominantly uses folk style wrestling and loves single legs and double legs. Like she likes to just time it and get down low and get you. That's nice. She's good at it. But if you're a taller fighter, like body locks are the better way to go, more of like the Greco-Roman style. But hey, to each their own. I don't think it's going to matter here. She's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage. Her striking's not that good, to be honest with you. It's not. And her cardio is also questionable. Most of her wins are early finishes, first round. Second round, first round, split decision because she went to decision. She gassed out. Then we have a first round. So the only time she got pushed all 3 rounds, it was a split because of how tired she was. So that is something to be cognizant of. But she will have the Brazilian flag and people behind her to will her on and try to give her a little extra cardio here. But yeah, at the end of the day, she's a grappler, a very damn good grappler, and she has female Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida is usually bigger than everyone, at least when he was at light heavyweight, and can strike decently well. His cardio we're not too sure about, but he gets first round subs over and over and over, so it doesn't matter. They train together and they fight the exact same way. This is female Jailton Almeida. On the other side, we have Montserrat Ruiz, neck tat herself. Her jiu-jitsu is not bad. It's not good, but it's not terrible at all. She was able to stay safe against Jacqueline Armorim to an extent. Like she was put in some really, really, really bad situations, but she did just enough not to get tapped. At the end of the day, her striking is really non-existent. You don't see it. All she does is throw a head and arm. That's literally all she does. She throws a head and arm, holds onto your head for dear life, and just puts you in an old school headlock and punches your face. That's what she does. She just grabs your head, holds on for dear life, and just punches your head as if it was like an older brother fighting a little brother. Like that's exactly how she fights, just Scarfold Queen. That's all she has. She's taking this fight on short notice, but for quite a while. I mean, she knew for like 6 or 7 weeks, so technically it's short notice, but she really only missed like a week or two of training camp. So whatever, however you want to consider that, but she's tiny. We talked about how big Mora is for the weight class. Montserrat's only like 5 foot. There's going to be a 6, 7 inches of height differential here, so it's going to look pretty comical at the weigh-ins when they face off. One is going to look like Mora's going to look like she's 2 weight classes higher. Literally, she's like 5'6", 5'7", and Ruiz is 5 foot. Like it's going to look ridiculous. So Mora getting down underneath Ruiz is going to be weird, but there's no way Ruiz can physically throw her head and arm. She will have to reach up into the sky to try to find her fucking head. Like there's no way. You took away her one move just by being tall. So what the fuck is Ruiz gonna do? Maybe she has a game plan. I don't know why she accepted this fight in enemy territory. It's a terrible stylist matchup for her. She's probably gonna get caught after if she loses, but I don't know what her thought process was here. I'm all over Mora. I hate the odds. I think they're a little extreme, but I am going to pick Mora. And if I had to bet it, I'm not betting her by sub like everyone is. Ruiz's last fight, again, Jacqueline is even better on the ground than Mora is, and she could not submit her. Ruiz kept getting out, and she ultimately had to settle for a TKO and said, screw it, I can't submit her. I'm just going to get on top and punch her until the ref pulls me off, and that's what she did. So Mora could do the same and get a TKO. I'm not fucking with that submission. Just give me Mora inside the distance as a bet, calling again today. Next fight of the night, we have more controversy in the women's MMA ranks. We have Angela Hill at plus 110 going up against my girl, Denise Gomes at minus 130. Over 2.5 is minus 270. Under 2.5 at plus 200. You didn't know. No one knew about Denise Gomes. I tried to tell the world about Denise Gomes. Denise Gomes is awesome. She's really good. She's 8-2. She is only 23 years of age, super young, coming off the Contender Series. She is Brazilian and going to have the crowd behind her, and she hits like an absolute truck. Her physical appearance is pretty unassuming. But she's the girlfriend of Carol Hosa, who is also a UFC fighter. Her striking is good. Very, very, very good striking and extremely powerful. Her jiu-jitsu is not bad. It's not, it's a little sloppy, but you can tell she knows what she's supposed to be doing. Like it's okay. It's presentable. Her wrestling, it could use a little work, but she will try to mix in offensive wrestling once in a while. Like the wrestling and the ground game are not her bread and butter. She knows she's a powerful striker, but she's not terrible at those two. And she's 23, so you can see the improvements each and every fight. She's getting better and better each time. She throws a ton of volume and she pressures forward. Everyone's going to compare her to Jessica Andrade, and justifiably so. That's exactly how she fights. She's just a little tank that's out there to hurt you. She's not out there to fight. She's not out there to be technical. She is out there to hurt you. And her last 2 fights, I've called to a T. They gave her Luma on short notice in her debut. I had Luma there and I had Luma by decision because Denise is tough. Sure enough, Luma won by decision. Then her next fight, they gave her Bruno Brazil and gave her an underdog tag. That didn't make any sense to me, so I was all over her as the with the under or sorry with beating Bruno Brazil, and sure enough, she went out there. Tenacious girl came out and got a knockout. She didn't just win; she went out there and got the finish in round 2 and looked dominant the whole way. That was great. And then they made her an even bigger dog against Yasmin Jauregui. I knew this was a trap. It's like there's absolutely no way she should be like plus 300 against Yasmin. Yasmin's a little chinny. And Denise hits like a truck. And Denise is the better striker. It throws just as much volume. And Yasmin doesn't wrestle. So, if anything, she had multiple routes to win that fight. And I got crazy. I got nuts because Denise as wild and tough and durable as she is, she gets rocked a bit. Like she got knocked out in her very, very first fight. And there were a few fights on the regional scenes where she did the stanky leg. Like it's not, she is such a killer. She is kill or be killed. You can put this girl out. It's not it's not all the time, but if you clock her and you have enough power, you can put Denise Gomes out. So I was all over the under. I loved the Nisi Gomes and I loved the under. And then they had her knockout prop at like plus 800, plus 900. And I got something in my gut told me, click that too. So I bet the Nisi Gomes, I bet the under, and I bet her by knockout. And she went out there and got a 20-second knockout over Yasmin. That was one of the biggest payouts I've ever had in one fight. And I think it was in my entire life. Like Denise Gomes came through. I love this girl. I've called her to a T. She is my girl. I've always, she is literally one. Her and Big Norm might be my two favorite UFC female fighters, to be honest with you. I love these two. And this fight, I'm gonna have to bet against her. Angela Hill plus money. That's all you need to say. She's 38 years old. I hate that. I hate that she's 38 years old. But in a war where it's probably going to be a stand-up battle, Angela Hill throws just as much volume, only she's a little cleaner. She has a reach advantage here of almost 2 inches. She throws even more volume than Denise Gomes does, and she's fought the better girls. Angela's 15 and 13, but she has fought the who's who, the Mackenzie Derns, the Amanda Lemos, the Emily Ducatis, the Tisha Torres, Verna, Loopy. Like she has fought literally the elite of the elite in the weight class. She's getting a little chinny with age now. She's 38 years old, and she was known and billed as someone that has never been knocked out and probably never can be because she just has a chin on her. Mackenzie Dern rocked her in her last fight. The fight before that, Emily Ducote did not. But Angela went out and got the win just by out volume Ducote. And Ducote is a tenacious little striker. And that's exactly what Denise is. And Angela went out there and put on a vet lesson and just looked cleaner and got the dub. Fight before that, Loopy rocked her shit round one, but she pulled herself together. It got the win over Loopy, and that's a quality win there. Fight before that, she fought Verna, and she got grapple fucked, but Verna's the girl. I love Verna. I might like Verna more than Denise. I forgot about Verna. And then Amanda Lemos, the fight before that, cracked her badly, dropped her straight to the floor, face first. But she woke up and she kept fighting and ultimately went to a split decision where a lot of people thought she actually won the fight. But those are the last four. What's this? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are her last 4 fights, and she's been cracked in like 2 or 3 of them. So that unstoppable chin is starting to fade with age. Father Time is undefeated. Her takedown defense is suspect, but it's been getting a lot better each and every year. She did get a late start in MMA, and you see her takedown defense is kind of taken off. So I don't know if Gomes is going to be able to get her down. So I think this is going to be a striking affair. The only other thing I don't like is that Angela Hill doesn't seem to fare well against pressure. Tisha Tora pressured her. Amanda Lemos pressured her. Loopy pressured her initially before she grew tired. Mackenzie Dern pressured her, and a lot of those are her losses. She doesn't like getting backed up. Angela likes to make it pretty and fight pretty and just kind of jab at you, pick and paw at you at distance. That is Angela's world, and Angela is world class at that. If you get in her face, things get a little hairy. And that's the way Denise fights. So I've been going back and forth between this fight over and over and over. And I keep thinking, you know what, Denise's going to come through. You know what? No, Angel's going to come through. And at the end of the day, you just got to side with the plus money. And the money's evaporating. Right now, Angel Hill's only plus 105 when I just checked before hopping on this pod. So, like, the money's coming in on Angela. So, if you're going to bet it, you got to bet it now as a dog because by the time this fight kicks off, it's going to be a pick 'em. So, as of right now, the pick is going to be Gomes. Sorry, yeah, Gomes because it's in Brazil. She might either knock her out or get a little grease with the judges. But the bet's going to be Hill as a dog. Whoever has the plus sign next to them, I'm going to take because I think this is a complete 50-50 fight. I love my girl Gomes, but she might be in some trouble here. Vet lessons are real. Next fight, we have Vitor Petrino minus 230 going up against Modestas Bukakis at plus 190. Over under at 2.5, over 2.5 plus 100, under 2.5 minus 130. Let's start with Vitor Petrino. He's the Brazilian in this matchup, and he's good, man. We talked about Denise Gomes being young. This guy's only 26 years old, and you see it. He's very green. He's very, very green, but he has power. He hits so goddamn hard. Like, he will knock out anyone at any point with any shot because he just possesses a god-given gift in regards to his power. So again, he has good striking. He has the crowd behind him. His wrestling, it's not good, but he keeps getting takedowns. We saw the fight against Anton Turkali. He had like 5 or 7 takedowns or something like that. His fight against Marcin Protniau, he had multiple takedowns. He's not a wrestler, but he's been really, really working on his ground game. And he's so strong and he's so good and he's so careless about who he's fighting. He just doesn't care and think he's invincible. Then he wants to show off that his ground game is getting better. So he's taking people down to show he has a ground game. Like, he knows he's a striker. He knows he can knock these people out. And he's taking them down to show and prove a point. And he got a submission his last fight out. He proved the point. So is he going to do it again? Is he going to be influenced by the crowd and just try to knock out Modestas? I'm not too sure. I like Petrino, but again, he's very, very green. They can't give him too much too soon or he will get exposed. And his urgency scares me. He's very, very methodical when he's in there. It's like he's in slow motion. He's not fast. He's not twitchy, which I'm sure he could be, but he's just really slow. And like, you see him thinking. If you take someone down, he's looking at his coaches and talking to them, having a full-fledged conversation. His opponent's trying to get up. He's just sitting there talking to his coaches and dealing with his opponent at the same time. It's like he's learning on the job. It's very weird. Just not a lot of urgency. He'll hurt you and then not go in for the kill right away. He'll wait and rock you again. Like, I just wish he was a little bit more of a killer. If you're hurt, go in and get the kill. If you get the takedown and you think you can finish him, go for the submission. Don't ask your corner, should I go for the submission first? Like, just go for it. And especially the times he has people hurt on the feet, just throw a few more punches and the ref will step in. Stop waiting for the highlight reel 1 KO walk off knockout. Just go get the normal one. Like, he just needs a little more urgency and a little more practice in the octagon. He's just super, super green. He's only 26 years old. He's only had 9 professional fights. The more he's in the octagon, the better. On the other side, we have Modestas Bukakis, who is, God, what do you say about Modestas? He sucks. He's not good. He's not good at all. This is his second run in the UFC. His striking is not bad. Like, it's all right. But it's very, very low volume, and he just skirts around the edge of the octagon. He doesn't engage. He doesn't do anything. He just wants to counter strike, and he just circles the entire time throughout the entire octagon. Just circle, 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 counter, circle, circle, counter. Like, he never initiates. He never goes first. He just counters you. He's hittable doing so. That approach, you can't catch them back every single time, and he usually throws just 1-2s as he counters, so he does get hit more than he dishes out. And as he's circling, you're backing up, and that's not a good optic for the judges. He's also chinny. He's 15-5, but he's been knocked out multiple times. We saw Khalil Roundtree. I mean, that was his knee giving out. That was different. Jimmy Crute one-punched him, and Jimmy Crute's a grappler. We saw him get dropped by Michael Oley and Chase Chuck. We saw him get KO'd on the regional scene, and then he got submitted on the regional scene one. So he has 5 career losses, and 4 of them are by finish. That's not good, and 2 of them are by knockout. So that's real, or 3 of them are by knockout. That's really not good. That's concerning. Again, his striking, he's very technical. His striking's not terrible. It's just very low volume, and it doesn't look good for the judges. And the judges are already biased versus Petrino. And let's just make it even better. Takedown defense isn't that great. So Petrino wants to continue this grappling tour he's on. cool. He can get Modestas down. If he wants to just try to get a knockout and look great in front of his home country, Modestas has been knocked out 3 times already. So everything's pointing in Petrino's way. So the pick is going to be Victor Petrino. The bet's going to be Vitor Petrino. But for the love of God, get some urgency. When he hurts Modestas, please just finish the job. Don't just stare at him. Don't let him back in the fight. Just clear it up and get it over with. All right. Speaking of finishing fights, next fight of the night, we have Renat Fakhr-Dimov as a minus 345 favorite, going up against Elijah Zaleski at plus 275. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 120. Under 2.5 minus 110. I've also been back and forth with this fight. Let's start with Renat. He's the main reason because Renat's a fraud. He's not that good. He's 22-2. He is a good fighter, but he's not your normal scary Russian. Like his regional scene's a little padded, to be honest with you. A whole bunch of people with negative records. People aren't noticing what level of competition he was fighting his entire career, essentially. Like a lot of these guys don't even have Wikipedia pages. If you don't have if you don't have a Tapology page, you're not a real fighter, bro. Or it could have been fixed. Like there's a lot of sketchiness that happened at the beginning of his career, but his wrestling is real. He's a very, very, very good wrestler. His striking's trash. His striking is not good whatsoever, but he hits like a truck. It's the most untechnical striking I've ever seen. It looks like he doesn't know what he's doing out there. But if he touches you, you're liable to go to sleep. He is strong. This dude is just a freak. He's very strong. Technique, zero. Literal, it's like he doesn't physically know how to throw a punch. But when he throws something out there, if it hits you, you're going out. So it's very interesting. But he does fancy himself a wrestler. That's how he fights most of the time. Jiu-jitsu is not good. It's not bad. It's just acceptable. But I talked about his regional scene. Even if you look at his UFC tenure, it's a weird career, man. They had him in a setup fight against Andreas Michailidis. They really wanted him to win, so they gave him literally the worst middleweight that they had on the roster, and he didn't look great. Like he kind of went tooth and nail with Andreas Michailidis. He got the win, and it was clear that he got the win. But Andreas put up a fight for the first round and a half until he gassed out and Renat took over. After that, he fought Brian Battle, but Brian Battle has like 20% takedown defense, and Brian Battle took the fight on a week's notice at welterweight when he like kills himself to make welterweight. Has missed weight a few times at welterweight because making the weight is so hard for him. So a short notice Brian Battle with 0 takedown defense. That's just it was kind of custom made for Renat to win that. And then his last fight, Kevin Lee's really controversial. Because Kevin Lee's very, very good. He's credentialed. This is going to be his toughest fight yet. The problem is Kevin Lee is a lightweight, and Kevin Lee hasn't been in the UFC for years. But Kevin Lee decided he was making a comeback. He's going to do it at welterweight where he feels healthier. I was like, you know what? Even though it's up a weight class, I still believe in Kevin Lee here. Kevin Lee gets into the octagon, and he always does like this jump to kind of like gear himself up. He does his jump in the octagon as soon as he does his entrance. And when he stomps, he tears an ACL, literally tears an ACL jumping. And now the fight's about to start. And what do? Say, never mind, I can't fight. I just hurt myself walking to the octagon after you come back years later. No, you fight. So we're not fought. You fought a lightweight with no ACL. I went out there and won in 50 seconds, justifiably so. So those are those 3 UFC fights. So he went from fighting nobodies on the regional scene to having a lot of short notice and no ACL and worse on the roster, just controversy here. So I have been waiting to fade Renat. You give me anyone decent, Renat's donezo. I am definitely betting the other side. I don't know if Eliza Zaleski is that man. I think Zaleski is that guy 4 years ago. Right now, Zaleski's 36, and he's starting to fade, and it doesn't look great anymore. He was also on the sauce, and he had to take a suspension because of it. So I don't know. He is going to have the hometown crowd here, which is nice. And if he comes in with some extra supplements, considering they're in his home country, awesome. I would love Zaleski. But if he goes to weigh-ins and he looks a little flat, like, hey, I'm not on the juice this time, I don't know if I can back him. I mean, he has really good striking. He's 36 years old now. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, so he's no slouch if it hits the ground. But 62% takedown defense, this is something I like to see when you're fighting someone like Renat. I mean, he has good wins. He has good volume, good schedule. He has a knockout win over Sean Strickland. He's the guy, if you guys recall a fight where the ref got kicked out of the arena for not stopping the fight, because someone literally almost died in the octagon. It was when Benoit Saint Denis fought Zaleski. Zaleski almost killed Benoit Saint Denis in the octagon. Literally, like Benoit was not okay. It was not okay. And yeah, if you recall that fight with the ref getting kicked out and never being let back because he let a fight go too bad and a fighter too big of a beating, it was Zaleski giving out the beating. So this kid is good, and he just has a win over a scary Russian Nurmagomedov. But he's 36 years old and he's off the sauce. So if he looks juiced, I'll bet him at plus 275. The odds are a little off. But if he comes in flat looking and like a 36-year-old, I can't do it at this point of his career. I'm going to have to take Renat. So the pick is Renat. The bet is Renat, but it is a dog or pass situation if Zaleski looks good on the scale on Friday. Next fight of the night, we have more controversy. We have Daniel Marcos at minus 250 taking on short notice Victor Hugo at plus 205. Over under at 2.5. Over 2.5 is plus 105. The under was not listed when I went to go look at it. But obviously going to have a negative in front of it and not be too big of a line. That's fine. Because Victor Hugo's a finisher, man. Victor Hugo's actually not bad. A lot of people say he sucks and he's just a finisher. I don't think he's bad. Like his nickname is Striker, but most of his wins are by submission. So it's very confusing. Joel Alvarez does the same thing. When they announce him as a striker, and 16 of his 18 wins are by sub or something crazy like that. It's weird. Same here. His nickname's Striker, but he has fallen in love with his ground game, and he's very, very, very good on the ground. He's dangerous. He does what is it called? Iranami rolls and just scoops up a leg. He has a leg lock finish in his Contender Series fight a few weeks ago. The kid's very, very, very good on the ground. On the feet, he's kind of like Vitor Petrino. No urgency. Very just lethargic looking, methodical, just low volume, a ton of power. The dude is strong, hits extremely hard. He'll have the crowd behind them in this matchup. So all of that sounds very great. It's just very low volume. And if he wants to get you to the ground and do it that way instead, his wrestling's not that great. It's okay. But if you have anyone with decent wrestling, he's in some very, very concerning situations. That's Marcos. Marcos is showing an 89% takedown defense. Granted, it's not against good wrestlers and it's a little skewed, but still, it's still a high enough number to get me off of Hugo initially. Marco's striking is very good. Very, very good. I know everyone thinks he lost his last fight to Davey Grant. I locked him that week, and I also thought Davey Grant won. I think we got lucky. I think we got a screw job there, and we came out on top somehow. But yeah, good takedown defense, good striking, high volume. He does a lot of good body work. So if you have cardio issues, you're in trouble. But Marcos himself has a little bit of cardio issues. I've seen him slow down in multiple fights the later it got. He's never gassed out. He's never gassed, but he has just slowed down considerably. So that is something to keep an eye on. Marcos is the better striker. He should be able to keep it on the feet. It should be Marcos all day. The problem with Hugo is that he's unpredictable. He'll pull guard. He'll do rolls. He'll just strike with you and try to knock you out that way. Like he's very, very unpredictable and wild. He's one of these guys that are scary to bet against. I do think Marcos is the better fighter. I was ready to pick on Marcos, and then I saw the line. The line is off. It should be aligned a lot closer than it is. So I'm getting, and more money's coming in on Marcos. So I'm being forced into a Victor Hugo bet. Do I want to do it? No. Do I feel obligated with this number we're going to get by fight kickoff? Absolutely. So the pick is going to be Daniel Marcos, and that's going to be Hugo. And I think he only wins by finish. So you can either choose one, or you can just do Hugo inside the distance, take that plus money, and get the hell out of Dodge. Next fight of the night we can do quickly because it is a fight that just got added today. We have Elvis Brenner taking on Kainan Kruzowski or Kruchewski, whatever his name is. He was just on Contender Series. He was all right, not great, not bad. He's pretty kill or be killed. His striking's okay. His chin isn't that good, but he dishes out a lot of power. But I was not able to do fight tape on him yet, just based on what I've seen. So again, okay jujitsu, okay striking, little bit of a glass cannon, but it is what it is. He's Brazilian, and he was able to take the fight on a few days' notice. On the other side, we have Elvis Brenner, who sucks. He's not very good, to be honest with you. His striking's okay, but he is very hittable on the feet. He is one of these what I call the Usman chins, where you get cracked and wobbled all the time, but you don't go fully out. I know he's never been knocked out, but he's come very close. Garam rocked him very, very badly in their fight before he got the win. Terhugov rocked him badly before he got the win. Like, how many of these can he snatch from defeat before he actually goes out? Gabriel Santos in the UFC now is very good. He rocked him on the regional scene, and then he ended up getting the loss. But again, he didn't put him away. He just doesn't go away. He just stays in the fight. And then if you slow down like Guram did, then he can come back and he can get the win. Same thing with whatchamacallit. It was a weird split decision against Zabira. But Zabira clearly won the first round. The second one's iffy. The third one's iffy. But if you get these guys to get tired along the way, Elvis continues to go. He takes advantage. He's Charles Oliveira's training partner, and he fights like him. He keeps getting rocked in the beginning, and then he keeps pushing forward until he gets you. That's what he does. But he's not a good version of Charles. Charles is much better. This is like not even Walmart version. This is Kmart version Charles Oliveira. So yeah, not something you really want to bet, and especially not at chalk. Do I want to bet the other guy? No, not really. But these lines aren't solidified yet, so we don't even know what the lines are, but we do know that Elvis is going to be the favorite, and it might end up being a dog or bass, even on a few days' notice. I just can't trust Elvis. He's not very good. All right. Next fight of the night, we have the first Bonfim brother. We have Ismael Bonfim at minus 440 going up against Vince from Hell Pichel at plus 340. Over under at 2.5. Straight pick 'em for the over under at 2.5. Let's start with Vince. That's probably part of the reason that it's just a straight pick 'em with the over and the under, because Vince doesn't he's hard to finish. His submission defense has gotten much better. I know initially he kind of struggled with the submissions, but he's gotten much better now. His wrestling has also gotten a little better. His striking's good. He's fought some pretty decent competition, but all in all, everything looking at it, 23% takedown defense is not a good number. And the worst number of all, he's 40 and he turns 41 in less than a month. That's not good. You don't bet 40-year-olds unless you have a damn good reason. This guy's over 40. Fuck no, can't do it. And he never fights. He's not active. Like his last fight was against Marco Madsen in 2022. Before that, his last fight was against Austin Hubbard in 21. Before that, his last fight was against Jim Miller in 2020. Before that, his last fight was against Roosevelt Roberts in 2019. Like, he fights literally once every year or two. That's not good. He's not really gaining a lot from being in there with so little. So I do like Vince, but he's essentially just a generalist, and he's 41 years old. On the other side, Ismael Bonfim, similar striking. Love the counter. They're very, very good. Both Bonfim brothers are very good counter strikers. He throws good volume. He's 27 years old, so he's about to enter his prime. He'll have the crowd behind him. He is the Brazilian in this matchup. And he'll mix in wrestling from time to time, which is good, especially with Vince having 23% takedown defense. Ismael's a real deal. I know the last fight he didn't look great. He was a big favorite. Everyone parlayed him up, and then he went out there and lost to Benoit Saint Denis. He also did break his arm in that fight. I know it was from blocking a Denis kick, so Denis did nothing wrong, and he justifies everything. But it's tough to fight someone so big with one arm. Like that's just a difficult ask for anybody. He's also rocking the 80% takedown defense, so he's not easy to take down himself. So if he wants this fight on the feet, I think it's on the feet. If he wants it on the ground, I think he can get it on the ground. His jiu-jitsu seems to be his weak spot, but I don't think he's trying to submit Vince, and I don't think Vince has been submitted before, but that's kind of tough to do now. If anything, you want a decision Vince, or you want to try to put him out. And I think those are the two approaches Ismail's going to take. So the pick is going to be Bonfim. The bet's going to be Bonfim. Next fight is one of the Twitter civil war of the evening. We have Rodolfo Vieira and Armin Petrosian. I have odds at -110 for both gentlemen. Over 2.5 plus 130, under 2.5 -166. Let's start with Armin, because Armin's my guy. I do nothing but win money with Armin Petrosian. I bet him Contender Series as a dog, and he won. I bet him in his UFC debut against Gregory Rodriguez, and he won. As an underdog, Kaio, I bet against him, and I bet Kaio by decision, and he won. I bet him, and I locked him against AJ Dobson, and he won. And then I had him against Christian Leroy Duncan as a dog again, in which he won. He has really, really, really good striking. He has really, really, really good cardio. He is really, really high volume, great striker, fun to watch. Everything's good except for two things. 36% takedown defense is not good whatsoever. He has some of the worst takedown defense, and especially against blast doubles in the UFC. And his jiu-jitsu is non-existent. He has zero jiu-jitsu. He has a very good get-up game. He said, screw jiu-jitsu, I'm going to figure out how to get up safely. And he does. With this 30% takedown defense, you see him get up over and over and over again, but he does it safely. He's never been submitted. So yeah, that's a good point. But on the other side, he's fighting Rodolfo Vieira, who is the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the UFC on paper. So if you have bad takedown defense and you're fighting someone with good jiu-jitsu, you're in a little bit of trouble here. Now Rodolfo's takedowns aren't very good. We saw him go 0 of 20 against Action Man, Chris Curtis, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing because he kept shooting them. Even when he was tired, he kept shooting takedowns. Predominantly, his biggest issue was his gas tank, and it looks like he's been shoring that up. We saw Fluffy Hernandez go out there and get a submission win over the black belt hunter because of how tired he was. And essentially, he said that's never going to happen again. We saw him get a finish in round 3 against not Wellington Turman, against hold up. Round 3 against Dustin Stolfus. And we saw him defeat Cody Brundage in round 2. The later finishes are perfect for Rodolfo because, again, his cardio is his issue. Now he's starting to finish the second half part of the fight. So his striking's not good. He has a very good jab. That's it. No striking. Wrestling's Jiu-jitsu, phenomenal. But on the other side, you have someone with terrible wrestling, great striking, and no jiu-jitsu. There's too many arrows for Rodolfo, and Rodolfo will be from Brazil and in his home crowd. So if anything, this is going to give an extra boost there. So I'll be on a little bit of an island, but the pick is going to be Vieira. The bet's going to end up being Vieira. Then that takes us to another local favorite here with Kyle Barallo at -250, taking on the mysterious Abus Magomedov at +205. Over under sitting at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 115. Under 2.5 -145. Why is the under the most likely thing? Probably because it's an Abus fight. Abus starts hot. He comes out the gates ready for all the smoke. Like he loves to come out and just scrap. He has good striking. He's Russian and from Dagestan, so he just automatically has good wrestling. It's just in his blood. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here, which is super nice. All of that bodes well. Problem is his striking, he does go all in and leaves himself a little liable to get countered, and Kyle's very, very good at countering. Also, with that high volume, he does slow down in his fights, and he slows down fast. Everyone's going to talk about the Strickland fight because you have to. He gassed out in 2 minutes. Like, I've never seen anything like it. He got really, really, really tired. And then Strickland was able to just go ahead and get the job done. Who's now the champion of the world. So, not a lot of shame there. Aged well in regards to losses, but we haven't seen him since. Now he's taking this fight on short notice. We just said a boost has a bad gas tank. You're going to take a fight on short notice when you're known for having bad cardio. I don't like that at all. Don't get me wrong. Kyle's cardio isn't anything to write home about, but it's not bad. He can at least fight for a little. He's 14-1. He hasn't fought or lost in quite some time. He has good jujitsu. He has really good wrestling. He has good karate style striking where he just very hard to hit. He's very fast twitchy, very athletic. Like he's a very, very, very good fighter. He fights at Fight Nerd and just predicates his game on his fight IQ, and it is high. He does have good fight IQ, I'm not gonna lie. The problem with him is that he's a little low volume and he can slow down in his fights, like period. I wish he threw a lot more when he was on the feet. He can counter a boost. But if he can somehow find a way to get this to the ground with him on top, a boost is not going to go. So I think on the feet after round one, Kyle might have the advantage. I know on the ground, 1 through 3, Kyle has the advantage. So I'm going to pick Kyle here, and I'm probably going to end up betting him. His money line is not bad at -250. I thought it would be worse. So with the crowd behind him, I'm going to pick Kyle. I'm going to bet Kyle. Abus, you may die, as the Brazilians are going to say. Next fight, we are looking at the rematch that nobody asked for. Rodrigo Nascimento at -185 going up against Don'Tale Mayes at +155. Over under sitting at 1.5. Over 1.5. -210. Under 1.5. +160. Let's keep this sweet short to the point. We've seen this fight 2 years ago. It was not particularly close. Don'Tale Mayes apparently has good striking, but I don't see it often. He's very hittable. He slows down in his fights. His wins are very questionable. Like when you go ahead and you look at Don'Tale Mayes' wins in the UFC, he beat Josh Parisian, who's no longer in the promotion. He beat Josh Parisian. He beat Rocky Martinez, who is no longer in the promotion. He beat Andre Arlovsky, who is literally almost 50 years old. And that's it. That's it. He's beaten no one else. Granted, losing to Cyril Gane is fine. He lost to Hamdi. Now that was juiced up Hamdi, so it has a no contest there. But in my eyes, he lost to Hamdi, which is not a good look. He got killed by Augusta Sakai, who's also no longer with the UFC. So they have all these guys that the UFC did not believe in and cut, and these are the guys that Montel beat. The guys that he fought and he lost to. I mean, some of them are good in Cyril Gane, but they're not great. They're nothing to write home about. They still destroyed Don'Tale. Don'Tale trains at Jackson Wink. He has all the potential in the world physically, just can't put it together. On the other side, I hate Rodrigo. I don't think Rodrigo is that good at all. I think he's very chinny. We saw him go out and get knocked out by Chris Daukaus in a few seconds. He lost to Chris Daukaus in 45 seconds. That doesn't look good, especially as Daukaus dropped the weight class and isn't in the weight class or in the UFC anymore. But Rodrigo does have good jiu-jitsu for a heavyweight. His wrestling's not terrible. We saw him utilize it a lot in the Tanner Bozer fight. We saw him use it a lot in the Alira Latifi fight. He was going toe-to-toe with a wrestler. End of the day, he's a little bit of a generalist, to be honest. But it's in his hometown crowd. And we can keep it short. He already fought Don'Tale Mayes, was winning the striking exchanges, then got him to the ground and tapped him out quickly. So he's better on the feet, he's better on the ground. He's already has the mental edge of beating this guy, and he's gonna have the crowd behind them. He's only -185. Makes no fucking sense. Pick is gonna be Rodrigo. The bet is gonna be Rodrigo. And that takes us to the co-main event of the evening. We have the even better Bonfim, Gabriel Bonfim, at minus 575, going up against Nicholas Dalby at plus 425. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 105. Under 1.5 minus 135. That line is because of Gabriel Bonfim. This dude's a potent finisher. 15 wins, 15 by finish, most of them within the first round. Dude is really, really, really solid BJJ. Once he gets a hold of your neck, you're going absolutely nowhere. He's 26 years old. His striking's not terrible. It's not great, but like his brother, he really, really, really likes to counter, and he's pretty good at it. His wrestling's not bad. We saw him go out there and take down Trevin Giles pretty easily. That's also not a easy task to do. He has good volume. Um, his cardio seems fine for now. If he gets pushed, he could be someone that fades later on in his fights, but he's yet to get pushed here. I don't know. It's just the Bonfim brothers are so overly aggressive. If they fight someone that's a good counter striker, I think they're in some trouble. Is Nicholas Dolby a good counter striker? The answer is no. Nicholas Dolby's older. We talked about Vince from Hell Pichel being 40 years old and needing to retire. Nicholas Dolby is 38. He's getting up there. He's pretty damn close to 40 himself. He's going to have a reach advantage here. He it's he's fought a lot of good guys in the UFC. His strength of schedule is not terrible, but he's not doing great against them. He's also known as being a nice, durable guy who can't get finished. We did see Jesse Ronson finish him. It just didn't count because Jesse Ronson was on the sauce as he did it. So he kind of got lucky there. Outside of that, this little revenge tour he's on of just getting a big win streak. He's beating all the geriatrics. He beat Muslim Solokov, who's in his 40s. He beat Warley Warley Alves, that's whatever. And then he beat Claudia Silva, who is definitely in his late 40s. He fought Tim Means, who's in his late 30s, about to turn 40. Daniel Rodriguez is not young. He's like 36, 37. Like, I don't know, at one point he decided that he's only fighting 40-year-olds, but it's been going great for him. Maybe it's because he's 40. Who freaking knows? But he's a little bit of a generalist, and he's never been finished. But I think that ends here. And Bonfim, I said, he's overly aggressive. He's going to get cracked one of these times. Dolby can't finish a sandwich. Dolby, there is no knockout threat whatsoever. I don't think he physically knows how to knock anyone out at this point. So if you're going to go 15 minutes with Bonfim, I think Bonfim gets the win with the crowd. And if you let Bonfim get a hold of you, I think you're in some issues here. And Dolby's also a very slow starter, and Bonfim has a lot of round one finishes. He starts very fast. I don't think that's a good combo. I think he might go out there and kill Dolby. So I'm probably going to take a look at the under 1.5, only minus 135. Those are pretty damn good odds for a Gabriel Bonfim fight. Picking Bonfim, betting Bonfim. And that takes us to the main event of the evening. If you haven't already, what the fuck are you doing? Hit the subscribe, hit the follow, hit that like button, show some support, show some love, and let this thing grow. We got Jailton Almeida at minus 470 going up against Derek Lewis at plus 360. Over under sitting at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 240. Sorry, over 1.5 plus 240, under 1.5 minus 330. Let's start with Derek. I have speeding ticket Lewis. You can break him down easily. Ton of power, most knockouts in UFC history, but he's very low volume. He's hittable himself. He gets hit more than he dishes out. He's rocking a 52% takedown defense, which is not a great number. He does okay with like doubles and singles. He can stuff those. But we saw Sergey Spivak go upper body and use trips and Greco-Roman throws and threw him all across the octagon, and Derek had no idea what to do. We kind of saw the same thing with where's he at? Ilya Latifi. I know he ultimately got the split decision win, but he got taken down 3 or 4 times, and all of them were throws. He seems to struggle with throws. He can stop a single or a double, but if you throw this man, he gets kind of confused. He doesn't really know what's going on. He's not good on the ground. He can't wrestle. He is just a one-dimensional if I touch you, you are going out. Again, the most knockouts in UFC history. If this guy, he has the death touch. He's the hardest hitter in the UFC. If he touches you, you go out. Is he going to hit Jailton Almeida? I don't know, because Jailton Almeida does not react well when he gets hit. Whenever he does, it's noticeable. It's very noticeable that he doesn't want to be there. He is traditionally a light heavyweight, decided, hey, I don't want to cut weight. These heavyweights are all fat right now anyway. I can just come in a little lighter. I know it's a risk, but I can be absolutely jacked, come out here, be so much faster that they can't keep up, and I'm going to finish all of them. And that is exactly what he's been doing. Jairzinho Rosenstruck fell victim. Shamil. We had Anton at 220 is what the catch weight was. Parker Porter. So this is going to be his 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be his 5th fight at heavyweight. And I think he looks great at heavyweight. His jiu-jitsu is phenomenal. His wrestling is so fast that it's good. His wrestling's good. His striking is explosive. It's not good, but he's athletic. His cardio, we're not sure about, man. He does look like he can start to slow down in fights, but we've never seen him push past like the second round. So I don't know. Even his contender series fight, he won. Let's see, contender series would have been right here. Second round submission. Yeah. I don't know the last time he went to decision. Been quite some time. Yeah. Last time we went to yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever gone to decision. Yeah, very good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, striking's okay. It's just I don't like his reactions when he gets hit. If Derek hits him, he might go out, to be honest with you. We don't know about his chin or his cardio. Those are the things that matter most to me. But it's not as if it's bad. We just haven't seen it yet. But at the end of the day, it's grappler versus striker. You always take the grappler in that matchup. So the pick is going to be Jailton. The bet is going to end up being Jailton. And that is UFC Sao Paulo Almeida versus Lewis. Again, give this video some love. Give it a follow. Give it a like. Give it a share. Tell your friends. Tell your family. We've been on a roll. We've been making money. The NFL podcast is already going up. And if we're going up and making our bankroll go up, we want our bankroll. I want yours to go up with ours. Let's get it.